Hello, welcome to another episode of Jumps Out My Garden. Okay, I'll just quickly take you around. So we're in the just at the end of the first week in July. This is the first greenhouse. As you can see, we've got sweet peppers forming. I don't know if you can see in there. We've got some nice little sweet peppers in there. Now, what I'm doing, obviously, I'm only watering from the bottom, but with this heat that we've been having, what I have been finding is the top of the soil has been getting a little bit dry. So what I've been doing is occasionally I've been putting a bit of water on the top of them as well, but you can see quite a few of them now are starting to form fruits, and there's one at the back there, and then obviously we've got a paler one here, but they're all doing really well. Over here we've got the jalapenos. I don't know if you can see, but the jalapenos are starting to form quite nicely as well. Here we've got the these are jalapenos as well. These ones at the front are the red little bonnet type peppers as well, so you can see they're doing quite well. And these ones here, these are the longer mohawk peppers as well. So they're all coming. They're all starting to grow really well. So that's the first greenhouse. I've just put the hollyhocks here because they were really suffering in the hot weather, which is what we've been suffering with. So I don't know if you can see here, but we've got it's been up to 43.6 degrees centigrade in the greenhouse. That's with all the doors and windows wide open, and it's still getting to that kind of temperature. At the moment we're looking at about 96 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 degrees centigrade around there, but as you can see, it's been getting quite hot in there. Sort of out here, obviously the comfy's gone now, so the tea's not started to form yet. I've opened the valve on there. As you can see, there's nothing out of the bottle yet because it's sort of quite hot. The hollyhock's been doing really well. There's been bees in and out of these all day long. We've had some large humming bees in there. We've had about 3 or 4 different types of bees sort of flying around there this today. Obviously, there's a clip on me taking the rosemary out of here. Hopefully that should be on this video. The rest of the herbs, what I have done is, because the sage is suffering a little bit with the dry, because the ground is literally like dust, I have given this a bit of water, which is not what I normally do. This greenhouse, this is the greenhouse for the tomatoes in. We've got here we've got the yellow sunrise tomatoes. As you can see, they're starting to form at the bottom there. We've got a number of fruit trusses on, and then from there on in, apart from those 2 at the end there, which are Gardener's Delight, these are all money maker. As you can see, they're doing really well. We've got sort of 3 or 4 fruit trusses on each one now, so they're growing really well. I still haven't put the this is the celeriac. I'm going to put that in the border around there, and these are the Dom Pedro planta, which I've been sort of keeping down there in the shade a little bit, but they've not really grown much because the weather's been so hot. But what I'm going to do is pot them up shortly. That's the second greenhouse. Right, and round here we've got the celery, which is growing really well. I'm having to water this pretty much every night, but as you can see, the celery is growing really well now. It's really starting to come. The comfrey, I should have taken this out by now, but I just haven't got around to doing it with all the weeding and picking berries and stuff. The asparagus is really started to go over actually. A lot of the berries are starting to ripen already now. We don't normally see that until September. Obviously we're only in July, so because the weather's been so dry, it's, they've really started to come on. A couple of months really before they do normally. Been picking the raspberries and the jostaberries. Raspberries have been doing really well. We've had about 4 4.5, 5 kilos so far. You can see the cockerel over there in the distance, but he's merrily crowing because he can hear me talking. But yeah, the raspberries are doing well. Obviously the strawberries are finished now. The potatoes, as you can see, because of the dry, they've really started to go over now. None of the potatoes have actually flowered yet. They've just gone straight over, which is unusual. But I have watered the ground a couple of times, just to give it a bit of a soak in. But I'm not expecting much from the potatoes this year because the drought has been so bad. The weather's been so hot. I really don't think the potatoes will be, you know, sort of that big this year. But I've been weeding through here. As you can see, there's a patch there that I need to weed. But the rest of the patch has been weeded. The weeds have been... I've weeded the potatoes now about 5 times. And you can see there's still weed amongst them. But I've just been pulling out the larger ones and trying not to disturb the ground too much. But anyway, that's the potato patch. In the first tunnel here, obviously at the front, we've got the sweet peas. Now I've been picking sweet peas pretty much every day. As you can see, they're doing really well. We've had loads of sweet peas. With sweet peas, if you want them to keep coming, you need to keep picking them. Sweet peas are the one plant that you need to keep picking. If you see any seed pods like this on early on, pull them off. And basically that'll keep the plant producing flowers. If you leave the seed pods on, or the flowers on, which obviously then produce the seed pods, the plant will start to shut down. So if you've not picked the flowers, then any seed pods that you see at this time of the year, just pull them off. There's still plenty of time. You can leave the flowers on in September and still get seed. So, but that's the sweet peas. Right, in here, this is one area I've yet to weed, but I've been watering this pretty much every day. The kale is suffering a little bit with the heat, to be honest with you, but it's not too bad. It is still growing, but it is much slower than it is normally compared to other years. And these are the Swedes, this row of Swedes here, which are being watered on a regular basis. This is all watered last night. I'm just watering the bit next to it here at the moment. Cauliflowers growing really well. Again, they're being watered on a reasonably regular basis. The thing with cauliflower is they bolt really easily, so most certainly in this weather you need to keep them watered. So at least every other night you need to give them, you know, reasonably good watering. And this is the Calabrese. As you can see, these ones here were the first batch, last two of the first batch, and they've kind of run to seed now. They've not really produced a firm head, but this is the second batch. This is a different variety, and hopefully they'll be better than the first variety they grew. But you know, they've not started to bolt yet. But again, as they're brassicas, I need to keep these watered to stop them bolting on me with this weather that we're having. Right, okay, and just round here we've got the sunflowers. As you can see, they're not quite in flower yet, but as you can see, they're growing really well. And then amongst in there some gourds, some butternut squashes. I'm just giving this a good watering. The way that I'm watering, just to give you a quick tip, it's much better for you to water one section really well every 3 or 4 days, as opposed to giving every section water every night. You're much better off giving it a good soaking, let the water soak down to the ground and leave the hose pipe on there for a good half an hour, and then the following night do the next section. As I said, last night I did the tunnel, this night I'm doing this section, and probably tomorrow I'll do in here. So I'll just leave the hose on for half an hour or so, and then that'll soak down into the ground. If you only do, you know, just a sprinkler of water on, what you do find is the water doesn't penetrate the ground very much. It only goes down an inch or so. That'll water the weeds, but it won't water the vegetables that you're trying to grow. So you're much better off giving it a good soak in. That'll soak right down 3 or 4 inches into the ground, and then that'll support your vegetables considerably better than if you just did a little bit every night. Right, in here we've got the beetroot. We've already started to pick the beetroot. That's doing really well this year. In fact, I've had a really good crop of beetroot. I showed you these on the last video, I know, but I've already picked a dozen or so beetroot really well this year. The spinach, as you can see, is growing well. The size of the leaf on that, the spinach, doing really well, but as you can see, it's still running to seed. That's not down to watering, because this is being watered every 3 or 4 nights. It's due to be watered again tonight. This is purely down to the heat. You know, you can water it, but at the end of the day, if it's too hot for the plant, it will bolt. Now this is spinach beet, which is considerably tougher against bolting, but As you can see, it has been bolting. The stuff outside that I grew later, this you can see here is the first batch, and then what we've got here in that section there and that section there is the second batch. I'm hoping that the weather's going to cool down a little bit and that won't be bolting anywhere near as much as the rest of it is. But all I do is I cut off, I get the secateurs every week or so, cut off this this shoot down at the bottom and feed that to the chickens. There's no reason why you can't eat this yourself, but I typically pull off the larger leaves for us, and then the rest of it I give that to the chickens, and they'll sort of finish that off for you. Right, so that's the second tunnel. So all in all, we've done pretty well in there this year. Right, the rhubarb next section here, that's all starting to go over now, which is expected. This will come back in September. I've been slowly but surely weeding my way through the onions. As you can see, I've done this section here. This section here, I'm just going to finish off. So I've got my bucket here. That's my next job. Finish off that section there. This has been watered again every 2 or 3 nights. Just trying, because as you can see, the ground. You can see that the ground is absolutely bone dry. You know, you need to go down a good 3 or 4 inches before you start to hit some moisture. But obviously the onion roots will go down that far. But the seeded onions that I grew this year have done really well. The seeds that the onions that I've grown from sets haven't done too badly either. But when I compare the two, the onions that I've grown from seed have done better. So I think in future I'll probably still grow some sets, but I'll grow the majority of them from seed, I think, from now on. Because from seed, A, they don't bolt, so you don't get any running to seed, where I've had a couple of the sets running to seed. So if you grow onions from seed, they won't bolt, basically, because it's their first year. Onions, well, most alliums are biannual, so they'll grow 1 year, then the next year they'll run to seed. Obviously sets, it's their second year, so you know, they're more likely to run to seed. But the seeded onions that I've put in, as you can see, you know, that's got a really good, that's got a sort of 3 or 4 inch girth on it already, and there's still loads of season left for onions. So you know, the seeded onions have done really well. However, I've not had a bad year at all. There are a few missing. As I've been weeding through, I've noticed a few haven't grown, you know, where they were placed, but you know, you expect a few misses, to be honest with you. But all in all, the onions have done well this year. The beans have been struggling, to be honest with you. Both these are the string beans, these are the French beans, also the runner beans have been struggling. They are growing, there's loads of flowers on, but the plants are nowhere near as thick as they were last year. Now, as you can see, I've already got some beans starting to form on there, so I will be picking some beans before very much longer. Probably the next 3 or 4 days I'll be able to start picking some beans from the French beans. As you can see, there's some there, as you can see there, just behind the leaf, and then there's some larger ones down there. Then if you look a bit further down, there are some more down here. So there's some beans I could potentially pick at already. Again, the beans have been watered probably every 2 or 3 nights because of this weather that we're having. But they're not growing anywhere near like they normally do. Typically with both runner beans and French beans, what you get is one runner that grows all the way to the top, and then you stop it at the top, and then it throws side shoots out, and then you get these secondary shoots coming up, like that one I've just twisted into there. What I'm finding at the moment is the plant's growing to about halfway up, and then it's throwing out side shoots already, and it's purely because of the heat that we've had this year. You know, it's you know, most certainly unusual weather for it, and they're also unravelling themselves as well. And it's all down to the heat and also lack of moisture in the ground as well. But as I say, these are being watered by hand. Well, you know, by your watering can. I put 5 watering cans up each side, so there's 10 watering cans in total. Go on, that's the large watering cans. The calendulas have come out at the front, as you can see, as they normally do. So we've had, all things considered, not too bad a show of calendulas up the front, and there's quite a large variety. You know, we've got some with dark centres and some with standard centres in. So considering that I'll never seed this is literally just the seed that falls from the year before, but I do get quite a good variety. That's quite a nice one. It's got cream and then orange around the edge. But yeah, so the calangias have come all right. Plenty of weed. Look at this stuff comes in on the I'm not quite sure what the name of the weed is, but it comes in on the manure, and I only use my own manure. I don't use or at least my chicken's manure, should I say. This comes off cow manure, which my neighbours get, and this is where the seed of this weed comes from. So it comes out of the fields. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but it literally, you know, on each plant you've got about, I don't know, 500 seeds, and then it's just everywhere. Right, this is the other side of the, as you can see, the same weed here, look. Now this was only weeded out, all of this here was only weeded out a week ago, less than a week, about 5-6 days ago, and already all of this weed's grown back. The weed this year, it's most certainly been the year of the weed. All of this was bare ground apart from the onions, sort of 5 days ago, and now all of this is grown in that amount of time. Right, onto the gourds. Obviously we've got pumpkins here which have gone absolutely balmy, and we've got butternut squashes there, and we've got courgettes at the end. So the pumpkins have started to grow. There's some fruit in there. You can just see one yellow one in there. I don't know if you can see in the camera. There's a little yellow one in there. There's one over there. I don't know if you can see between the leaves. But they're kind of dotted about. What I'm trying to do is train it to grow into the rhubarb patch, because that's what it did last year. In fact, you can see just down there that that's a pumpkin forming there, and then we've got a butternut squash forming here. So there's plenty of fruit. It's dotted all around. There's another pumpkin there, look, and one just there. So there is plenty of pumpkins growing all over, and I'm sort of training the pumpkins to go that way and the butternut squashes to go this way. Got sunflowers along the back there that I've put in since the last video. There's a row of sunflowers, you can see this one here and there, so that's going to grow up. They're the big ones. And then we've got the 3 courgette plants here. I did say when I put these in that they were going far too close to each other. Really I should have put these in a much bigger piece of ground, but I hadn't got the as much ground as I wanted to put them in, to be honest with you. But as you can see, because they just grow like bilio when they're starting off. But I don't know if you can see in here, but these are the courgettes. I don't know if you can see in there. Some nice courgettes growing on the end here. There's a couple actually. This one here's gone too far, so the chickens will end up with that one. This one here. But there's some nice little ones here, or zucchinis, whatever you want to call them. So there's plenty of them growing. Again, all of this was weeded, and look, the weeds up to 18 inches or so. So all of this was weeded the other day, and it's all grown back again. But right, onto the run of beans. As you can see, there's loads of flowers. This is nowhere near as thick. This time last year, you couldn't see through this because the beans had grown so much, and there's like a great big sort of growth on the top as well, where it had all grown. So this year, there's nowhere near as much foliage or sort of growth on the beans. You know, you can still see through this, and that's most certainly unusual. Again, they're unravelling themselves. I have to keep sort of coming up and sort of ravelling them in again, so that they wrap themselves around the post. But as you can see, we've got some aphids. I'm not too worried because I've seen ladybirds up here as well, which are eating the aphids. So I'm just leaving them to it at the moment. I don't really like to use pesticides unless I really need to. Also, as well with beans, you can't really spray it with garlic because the garlic flavours the beans. You may like that, I don't know, but I don't particularly like garlic flavoured beans. But as I say, there's still flowers on them. They're still growing really well. There's loads of flowers. I don't know if you can see all over. There's loads of flowers all over it. So I know I'm going to have plenty of beans. So within the next few weeks, we're going to have loads of beans forming. So obviously these are the flower structures, and the beans will grow from there. Right, other side of the potato patch. Again, this has been weeded. I've just got to do this bit here, and it's all finished. These beans actually being watered every 2 or 3 days as well. I don't really like to water every day because I'm concerned about the amount of water that I use, and there's no rainwater now, so every bit of water that goes on the allotment is coming out of the tap. So I'm trying to minimise what I'm using, but to keep the plants going, I've got to water them at least sort of every sort of 2 or 3 times a week at least to keep things going. But I say the potatoes, I've only watered them twice this season. As you can see, they're just all flopping over. I don't know what kind of potatoes I'm going to get, but I don't think it's going to be anything like what I normally do. But that's the weather for you. Right, here we got the apple trees. You can see I've thinned them out, so I've only got 2 apples per fruiting stem. I've picked half of the jostaberries, so that jostaberry bush over there, unless I've missed any, I've picked all the jostaberries off there. As you can see, this one, I've still got to get in here and pick the rest of these. Okay, now moving on to the broad beans. As you can see, I've picked the majority of them, but what I'm finding is in each of these pods there's only 1 or possibly 2 beans. Like that one there, you can actually feel there's only actually 1 bean at the end. So the crop hasn't been brilliant at all, nowhere near what I've had in the past. But out of 20 plants here, I should have got at least, I don't know, at least 6 or 7 meals out of the, for 6 or 7 people. But I've probably got enough for 2 meals, to be honest with you. But I'm not overly fussed because there's only me that eats them. But yeah, the runner beans haven't been too bad. But again, it's not a crop that I've been watering. I've been watering the more important crops that that there's more of them, like the onions and stuff like that, because and the spinach, because I know that's something that everybody eats. And also, if I don't water them, it'll just run to seed. Right, the spring onions, these ones here have gone over a little bit, to be honest with you. Those have been watered sort of once or twice a week just to keep them going. But again, I'm having to water them all the time because if you look at this ground here again. This is actually the drier part of the allotment. I don't know if you can see. Look, if I dig down, the ground's just absolutely bone dry. It's basically like dust. There's just no moisture at all. I'm down there 5 or 6 inches before I actually start to get to some kind of moisture. But everybody's been suffering with the same thing. I mean, we've had no rain in Britain now for about 2 months, and the weather's been sort of high 20s, low 30s. For the past sort of couple of months, so it is what it is. Anyway, that's what the allotment looks like. As I say, we were just at the end of the first week in July.
So, I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you got below, and I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Garden.